is coming from countries where resources are being exploited, where minerals, where rainforests and all kinds of things like that are going on. These are really valuable conversations to be having. And as Greens, we're a global movement. We don't separate global justice, racial justice, social justice, and environmental justice. Solving these problems comes together. So I hope you're up for this. There's a fair voting system in this election. You can very, very safely vote Green first, use your second vote, the second best, and you can vote for the Assembly knowing that every single vote for the Green Party will help elect more people like me, like my colleague Caroline Russell, to represent you on the London Assembly. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to the questions where you'll dig deep into what we've actually got in our manifesto.
Thank you, Fran, which you always come to several of our meetings during the Amigo Month. Thank you very much, Fran. I also wanted to give thanks to all the Spanish and Portuguese media which are broadcasting this event. Thank you very much for all of them. And now I wanted now Mary Valverde, who is the only Latin American in this country that have the title of headmaster. Mary wants to make you some questions. Is Mary there?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sean, and lovely to have you here tonight. So I have some questions for you. Can you hear me, Sean?
I can, yes.
So, the two largest commonwealths of nations are the British and the Ibero-American ones. How can you use the fact that there are more than 1 million of Ibero-Americans in UK, mostly living in London, as a bridge between these two important blocks?
That's a really good question. And this is all about this global question, because the problems we have to solve in this century, as we try to prevent unavoidable climate chaos, as we try and build a more just and peaceful world, all involve international cooperation, international brotherhood and sisterhood. And it's so important that we do talk amongst ourselves. I don't know as mayor how much influence I will have on Commonwealth summits, but I can definitely use my power to try to make sure that more is done in that respect. I think, we are, like I say, the Greens are a global movement. We have the global Greens, we have the European Green Party, where we work really closely with Greens from all over Europe. I meet regularly with Green leaders from all across the world. So if there's any influence I can have on that, I will.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And obviously, your Green Party is global, around the world. So we're really looking forward working with you, Sean. So I'm going to move into the second question now. In 2010, City Hall and the Mayor of London celebrating the bicentenary of 5 Hispanic American nations. What are your plans to celebrate the bicentenaries of 8 Latin American republics in 2021 and 2022? On the 7th of September 2022, when we inaugurate the Amigo Month, we are going to celebrate 200 years of the Brazilian independence and 500 years since Spanish and Portuguese sailors were the first to circumnavigate the planet, creating the current globalization. What are your plans to celebrate this important date? What are you going to do? Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say that's such an enormous amount of commemorations in just a 2-year period. It's extraordinary and incredibly important. I think your highlighting of the first circumnavigation is really important. That is very significant. It's as significant, really, as the first space flight. So when we first saw our globe on its own in space and we realized how fragile it was, being able to go all the way around the world and realize that there are people absolutely everywhere and we are all part of a human race who need to be closer together. It's really, really important. In my manifesto, I pledge to do much more, to have more celebrations within City Hall and to do more with the budgets that we have for culture to support celebrations and commemorations from every single community in London. And so this is a very important date to put in my diary, and I will definitely do something about that. And I'll be listening to you about how to do it. I think there are some good ideas we could be doing.
Oh, that's fantastic, Sean. So what are you going to do in London to build monuments or name a street to celebrate some important members of our community?
So for this, I want to carry on and expand the work that the current Mayor Sadiq Khan has started with the Commission on Diversity in the Public Realm. Now, be very clear, Sean Bailey wants to disband this and cancel it. And I think it's really important. It's important for two reasons. One reason is that there are far too many people commemorated on the streets of London. And if you look carefully, they are everywhere, who have histories that we need to be saying and facing up to as a nation, but saying that we don't want those celebrated in our public spaces. I think people of colour going about their daily lives do not want to be reminded or reminded that our country venerates people who are involved in the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved Africans. That is something that has to be expunged from our streets. And I think there needs to be a proper reconsidering of every single thing that's named after people who are involved in that. And we just need to be very, very honest in our conversations. And then secondly, for incredibly positive reasons, London needs to be celebrating its recent and strong heritage of being a place that is welcoming to people from all over the world. And we need to do that celebrating by putting more commemorations into the public sphere from the Ibero-American community, but from every community also that makes London its home. So I hope the Commission will feel empowered to come up with some really creative ideas for how we do that, and to work really closely with all of our different communities on how we do it. At the moment, I don't know if you know that we're moving to a new building from City Hall, so the City Hall round building that we have at the moment. We're moving to the new Crystal building, which is in Royal Docks. And there's a street that leads to it and a space outside it that we get to rename. So that's a nice job for the next mayor to finish off. So put your bids in now for what we name it.
Okay.
That sounds really, really fantastic. Thank you very much for your commitment and your fantastic answers, Sean. So I'm going to move now to the next question. So every year in September and October, the Amigo communities in the UK, USA, and Canada celebrate their History Months. As Mayor of London, are you going to do a special proclamation, an event for our community during our History Months?
I would absolutely love to. Now, there are very tight budgets within City Hall at the moment, and these events can be quite expensive. So we'll need to work together on how to pay for that. I know that the enormous Pride March has already had its grant cut for the next year because of a real budget squeeze within City Hall. I hope, I think you know, that the finances of London are being squeezed at the moment by the government, and that this is a political thing. And I hope that pressure, once the election's over, will ease and we'll be able to replenish all those budgets and expand them as well. But I also know that we can team up and find partners to help us to put these things on. And in terms of the fact that the GLA runs Trafalgar Square, I'll do everything I can to make sure I facilitate it and put some funding in as well.
Excellent. I'm sure we are going to go ahead with all your support, Sean. So can you create a special section in your website and many activities in City Hall during the Amigo months? Can you support an annual parade and festival in Trafalgar Square during that period?
Yes, exactly that. We will celebrate it in every way we possibly can.
Okay.
Okay, fantastic. Great to hear from you, Sean, and we are looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I see that we have Antonio Cunha. Is he there? Antonio? No. Okay, Antonio not yet. So we have now Alda Lopez, who is from Cultura Cabo Verde. Is represent the Portuguese-speaking African communities. Alda, do you want to ask your questions?
You're in silence.
Silence.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it now. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Shan. I'm going to try to ask you some questions. And the first one is a specific question from my group. We met before, but I don't know if you know Cultura Cabo Verde UK. We are a charity, a little charity that we are deal with prevent knife crime. So as you are aware, knife crime is very high in London. It is affecting our community profoundly. What are your plans to help small charities like ours that have specific projects such as Saturday Club or Youth Club to prevent knife crime, but have problems getting support from a specific borough because our members are from different parts of London? And also because applying for funds from big charities such as Lottery Fund is extremely competitive and requires specific skills from professionals that we cannot afford, to be honest. What are your plans to help us?
I'm very, very proud that in the last 5 years in City Hall, I have helped to win new funding at a London level for youth services. Part of my work has been to follow the cuts, to ask every council what they've taken out of their youth services. And it's really sad. I mean, the councils, they're facing a squeeze from government as well, but they've taken more than half of the money out of their youth services in the period since 2011 under austerity. And we've lost more than 100 youth centres. And I put this data to the current mayor and said, we must find money at a London level to do something about this. And so £70 million has been made available through what's called the Young Londoners Fund, and that is helping to make something of a difference, but it's only about 1/3 of what's been taken out. It's not the whole difference. Now, one thing I did as soon as the mayor announced that he was taking up my idea and starting the Young Londoners Fund was to try to make sure that it was available to smaller groups, that we were reaching out, so that it wasn't just councils who we were giving the money to, but it was grassroots community groups, and that we were making it easy to apply. And I think some of that has happened. There has been support. So if you haven't got grants yet, my plan as mayor is to keep the Young Londoners Fund going. At the moment, the current mayor does plan to wind it down and cut its budget over time. I would not do that. I would put every penny I could find into it and redouble our efforts to make sure that it reaches people on the ground who are running grassroots groups. So whether or not I'm mayor, this is going to be my mission, to get the money back into the Young Londoners Fund. And when I'm an assembly member, I can definitely ask about what's going on with making sure we reach all of the different communities. Because if you're running a group that's particularly supporting a particular group that's particularly vulnerable, it makes perfect sense for you to fund. I can't promise to fund you though. That would be lobbying, which is not allowed. But I can look into the structural reasons why not, and make sure that there are people supporting small groups like yours.
All right, thank you. Very good answer. Thank you very much. The second question is, what is your position regarding Europe? Should London have a special status with the EU? Should London demand no visas for EU citizens from July? What is your position regarding voting rights for all people who have been living in London for more than 3 or 5 years? Are you going to lobby the government to help these people?
Yeah, 100%. My party was one of the strongest voices for staying in the European Union for a people's vote, and we will continue to be a very strong voice for all our EU citizens. We want to make sure that EU citizens living in the UK maintain all the rights that they had, that there isn't this cliff edge of applying for settled status, and that we do, like you say, and this would help all people from other countries as well, that we do try to make sure that there aren't these rules for visas, for reuniting families that involve a minimum income, because we know that a lot of the people in London are earning the minimum wage, and that isn't going to qualify you at the moment. And we know that many skilled professions still earn less than the current threshold, and that isn't going to help London to thrive, as well as being kind of a cruel way to keep families apart. So we will be a very, very strong voice for that, and we'll absolutely have a bottom line of not taking away the voting rights of EU citizens, because it's so important that they have a voice, a continued voice in London's government. And I think in terms of voting for Westminster, they should be as well. The Scottish Greens have managed to change some of the rules in Scotland, and that's really, really good. It means that voting is much more based on residency than citizenship, and that's the way I support doing it as well.
All right, thank you for that. The third question is, in Britain there is a lot of discussion about racism. Many members of our community have been suffering from a specific discrimination because of the way they speak English, or because they speak Spanish or Portuguese, their mother tongue. There are a lot of cases in which Spaniards, Portuguese, Latin Americans, Brazilians, Luso-Africans, like myself, have been verbally or physically attacked in the streets for speaking their own mother tongues. How can we stop this form of racism?
I sat on the Police and Crime Committee in the London Assembly for the past 5 years, and we have seen spikes and increases in all kinds of hate crime, but particularly a growth in attacking people for speaking their own languages. There's well-documented cases, which I'm sure you're aware of people simply being attacked for speaking a different language to English, and that is just awful. I mean, I stand against all forms of racism, and the work I've done on the Assembly has been to try to make sure that the different categories of hate crime are properly recorded, so that we know the data, so that we know what's going up and where, and so that we can do work to bring communities together and really tackle it. And also trying to make sure that unfortunately, a lot of hate crime happens on public transport, particularly on buses, and there's no consistent information and no consistent period for which CCTV evidence is kept. So if you report a crime and a couple of days later, for example, you may have already missed the opportunity to get the CCTV evidence of what happened. So I'm trying to make sure that investigations are more consistent, that data is clearer, and that we have all the evidence we need when we do work to try to make sure that racism is combated in more positive ways, as well as enforcing against people who commit hate crimes on the streets.
The crime. All right. Thank you very much. That is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Now is Antonio Cunha and Leah Matos who are going to talk. Please be more concise in your answers.
Sorry.
Antonio Cunha is the counselor of the 420,000 Portuguese in this country. And Leah Matos is one of the founders of the Portuguese-speaking community centers. Both have organized the Portuguese Festival with 50,000 people. Please, Antonio and Leah, can you ask your questions, please?
Yes, good evening to you all.
Good evening. Hello, Leah. Hello.
Leah, you are on silent. You are muted.
I think there may be a problem with her sound.
Yes, now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so good evening to you all. And my first question to you is, according to the British Council, Spanish is the main foreign language to teach, and the Portuguese is also one of the main ones. Thank you, Sunday. How are you going to promote them? Are you willing to have City Sol Web in both languages? Our community desperately services in Spanish and Portuguese and free courses to learn English. How are you willing to help with that?
We have some. I think, is it Nikki is giving us feedback? Is that gone now? No.
I'm not sure. Is it actually us who's doing the feedback?
I think the Nikki person on the screen has got there's feedback, there's visual feedback as well as sound feedback?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it right to speak? I don't want to cause lots of echoing.
I see that the problem is that Antonio and Leah have the microphone at the same time. They have to mute when they are talking.
There's feedback.
Yeah.
I'll speak now, don't worry. So yes, I've been really interested and perplexed as to why Portuguese is not better recognized in London. It's like it seems to have been left behind. Our population who speaks Portuguese has grown, but nothing's been updated. And I know that we've asked questions about this to Transport for London, and they still haven't done it. And so I think there needs to be an awareness campaign that reaches out to all the different public bodies and says, by the way, this is is it the 5th or 6th most spoken language in London now? Make sure that we're covering it. I'm very proud the Green Manifesto for London has Spanish and Portuguese translations, which you can read. There's a short version of our manifesto, and I made sure that happened because we shouldn't leave it out. So whatever I can do to help, I will.
Okay, Antonio or
ask you, and that is what are the plans for the developing the 5 main Ibero-American commercial, social and cultural clusters: Elephant and Castle, Seven Sisters, Little Portugal, Willesden, Junction and Portobello, and to stop gentrification? What do you think about the demolition of Elephant and Castle, the fact that the Latin village is still closed, and plans to transform Little Portugal with many Portuguese symbols and futures?
This is something I campaign on and work on at City Hall quite a lot. I've stood with the people from Ward's Corner. I've done quite a lot of work to try to support the people around Elephant to get their spaces re-provided. I mean, initially to try to stop the redevelopment at all, because this is, like you said in your question, this is all about gentrification, and I want us to protect these community clusters, these things that have grown up organically in areas but now serve really valuably communities that cover the whole of London. It is very difficult for local boroughs to have policies that protect it when at the London level you're saying redevelop everything. So it has to be fixed in London's planning rules. And I put forwards ideas for doing this, for how to protect culturally significant spaces, not just significant buildings, which is the way that heritage protection works at the moment, with a concept called emerging heritage. And this I'm going to continue to work on. If I'm mayor, this will be an important part of my new London plan. And there will need to be a review of the London plan soon, and I'll be feeding that idea back in as well. It's so important that we have strong hooks and rules that communities campaigning can actually use in legal terms. And you do a really good job of drumming up support. I know you come to every People's Question time and you argue these points, and the mayor's team really feel it. But without the rules in place, they can still make bad decisions, and it isn't good enough because we are demolishing our emerging heritage. We're demolishing things that are really valuable to our communities, and that really just make London what London is, and it's just wrong.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Antonio Cunha. Good evening to everyone. Important thing is, let me just talk a few minutes about myself. I've been involved with Isaac in the past. I live in Lambeth, and I've been helped to register Portuguese people to vote. When I said to vote, at the time is everything on paper, is everything on paper. It's not easy to do, but we've been registered so many Portuguese people and push them to vote, and because we allowed to vote in this country and make decisions as well. And my question is we talk about language at the time as well, to put the Portuguese language in the train stations, in the machines, everywhere, we understand. But I think is the most important thing is no one thinking to employ people speak 2-3 languages, like Portuguese people, give them a key jobs to, give jobs to this kind of people. When they arrive, they speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English. When you arrive to that key of the jobs, you just find people. I don't know. It's nothing against of them, but if you involve it, more Portuguese people, more Spanish people in the key jobs, we save on that side, and maybe is the government don't need to spend a lot of money as well, because it's to translate everything. I know it's not easy, no one day to another, but if it's give a job to people, Portuguese people, Spanish people, they speak, easy. Portuguese people understand Spanish and speak Spanish and English, and exactly the same. Spanish is understand Portuguese and English. I want to ask you that question. What is the best thing to integrate it as sons? I've been here for 43 years. My oldest son is 35. My younger son is 16. They be in the colleges, the universities, and what can we do to put that people, or what can we do, or you do, to put that people in the key positions to resolve that gap? Thank you.
I think you've made an incredibly important point there. I mean, this is one of those things that obviously it will help with London coming together more. It will help with reducing racism, but it will also help with providing a service to our multilingual population. If more people in public-facing public sector jobs can speak more than one language, that will be a thing. So we did have for the police service for a while, and I think they changed that because, well, they had a residency requirement, and they had sort of extra points when you're joining the police if you can speak an extra language. And the idea of that was to make sure that there were more police in the service who were able to communicate with multiple people around London, but also as a way of increasing the diversity of the police service, because the members of our community who can speak more than one language are quite often more diverse. So that was a really, really good thing to do. And I think that ought to be done, like you say, for people who work for Transport for London, the fire service, many other public sector jobs. And that is not in my manifesto. And I wish you'd told me this before we wrote the manifesto, but that's something we should explore again, because it's a really good way of doing positive discrimination that may well help. And I know that in Wales, because I have my name is Welsh, by the way, but I know that in Wales, to get a public sector job, you need to learn Welsh, because in Wales people speak Welsh and English, and you're supposed to. So it's not a wrong kind of discrimination. It's legal to require that. So let's find out more about how we can do that.
All right. Thank you. We have a lot of questions, but no, wait a moment, because we are running out
all of your time, because you've got to show the other candidate.
Because we are running out of time. Leah, please. Leah.
Okay. My daughter is studying global politics at Essex University, and I've asked her to put you a question.
Cool.
And to be honest with you, she's falling out of love with politics, although she's studying them. She asked me just one thing, and for you to be precise, will you protect zip cards?
Protect what? Zip cards for students?
Zip
yes.
cards.
Yes, I am. And we want to make them as soon as we can afford it, because Transport for London's finances are in flux at the moment. But in the manifesto, it says we want to extend the age upwards as soon as possible as well. It's an investment directly in young people. And the idea of cancelling it is so wrong. our young people are in so much trouble at the moment. They need to know that we are putting money behind them, that we're investing in their future. And this is just one part of it. I also want to create a basic income for young people as well, so that they can be supported to just have choices in their lives. I think young people are feeling desperate at the moment. They're not optimistic about the future, and the zip cards is the very least we can do. I also want to do much more.
Shan, we are run out of time. We have a lot of questions. I wanted to do one last question is, how are you trying to extend the recognition of the Ibero-American, the Spanish-Portuguese speakers in the census, because we are being recognized in London, Spanish, Portuguese, Latin American, Afro-Portuguese, and Brazilians. The other is, we wanted to have like an Ibero-American house, like the Polish Center with theater and museum. Can you help us? And well, there is a lot of questions about mental health, and how can you support our community during COVID? We have much more, but we are running out of time.
Well,
so this is the last question.
I think, I mean, just to skip over the details, just to say, one of the important principles that are in my manifesto are that the best decisions are made when you're involving everybody in those decisions, that power needs to lie at the right level. And so my commitment is to always bring your voices into City Hall in connection with all these different issues. So let's try to make sure the Ibero-American community is represented whenever we're discussing every issue, not just international issues, not just issues to do with equality. Let's bring you in to talk about housing and health and all of those things as well. And that's a very important principle I've got. So let's try and solve these issues together is my commitment.
What about the question about the extending the census and to have an Ibero-American?
Oh, yeah, there is a policy about that, yes. But basically, all our data needs to be much better in City Hall. Now, we don't run the census from City Hall, but we do collect and sort and use an awful lot of data, and we put data out to the public. So extending the categories, making sure that we're properly finding out what's happening to all our different communities. And there's a lot of resistance at the moment to the term BAME because it's just lumps everyone together. We do need to know in more detail what is going on with our different communities, and that is specifically a commitment in the manifesto.
You are going to support to have a Spanish Portuguese speaking theater and house and something like that, no?
I would love to. I'd love to. We'll have to find some public land for that. Maybe on the site of City Airport, which I've pledged to close, and redevelop as a new quarter for London. That would be a good place for it. It's right opposite where the City Hall is as well.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. Good luck.
Thank you.
We're going to see the other candidates. Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
Oh, I'll just leave a link to my manifesto in the chat and then leave.
Thank you very much, Sean. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Now we are going to start to have the videos from the different candidates, because the only one that came live was Sean Berry. And please, Nikki, who is from Bar Latina, who is our technical manager, can you put the other videos, please?
We could certainly try.
Okay. Thank you very much. Berry said that her manifesto in Spanish or Portuguese can be seen in her website, but it's also in the Facebook.
Hola. I want to start by saying how much I personally value the contribution of Portuguese and Spanish speakers in London's community. Everything you do to make our city so diverse, bringing your amazing cultures to our city is wonderful. So thank you. The Liberal Democrats are Britain's internationalist party, and I will always stand up for all of our diverse communities. From the outset, I've put the recovery at the heart of my campaign, because we need to move forward together after this devastating year that we've all been through. The pandemic has accelerated big changes in our capital, like the rise of online shopping and increased home working. We need a plan to embrace those changes and take London forward. And that's what my plan does by focusing on 3 basic needs: jobs, homes, and clean air. With people spending more time and money in their local areas, we can reinvent our high streets for the future. I will back small businesses and ensure our high streets provide services that local people want and need, like childcare, shared working spaces, and more places to eat and drink after work, which will help breathe new life into our areas and create jobs. If we want people to keep working in our city, it has to be an affordable place to live as well. The current mayor has failed to deliver even half of his own homes target. I'll set up a City Hall-backed developer, the London Housing Company, to take control of delivering the homes that we need. And I will do creative things like converting soon-to-be empty office space into quality, affordable homes to finally fix our housing crisis. We need quality of life in our city as well, which is why we have to tackle toxic air pollution. I'd stop polluting projects planned by the mayor and invest in clean, green public transport instead. And to help get our city moving again, I'll introduce a flexible travel card, which will be a 4-day card for the price of 3, meeting the needs of how Londoners are going to be working and living in our city in future. I also want to say something about Brexit. As a former London MEP, I know that our city relies on having the closest possible relationship with the EU, and that's what I fought for the last 4.5 years. And I will always stand up for the closest possible relationship, especially for our nearly 1 million EU citizens in London who make a huge contribution to our city and are so valued and welcome. So I will always stand up for the principle of free movement, and so will the Liberal Democrats. Finally, at this crucial moment for our city's future, we need leadership. I've got a plan to take London forward. So if you like the sound of it, then don't forget to vote Liberal Democrat on all 3 ballot papers.
She was Luisa Porritt from the Liberal Democratic Party. And now we are going to have Sadiq Khan. We have 3 videos from Sadiq Khan, and one that he produced some time ago for the Amigo Mons. The other one is a political broadcast, and the other one is an interview that he made with Maria Victoria Crisancho from Express News.
During this month, we recognize the huge contribution that the Latin American, Iberian, Hispanic, Amerindian, and Lusophone communities make to London. They're among the many diverse communities originally from all over the world who together make our city the great place that it is. Throughout Amigo Month, each of the 35 Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries worldwide can join together in unity and celebration. Amigo Month also runs in parallel with the Hispanic Heritage Month in the USA and Canada. Together, we celebrate the rich culture and history of 70 million Hispanic people and how they've enriched our global community. For everyone celebrating, I want to wish you a warm and joyous Amigo Month. Viva mes amigo, amo mes amigo.
Y estamos de vuelta en Express News Noticias, y es que en la campaña electoral de cara a las elecciones de alcaldes y asambleas del próximo 6 de mayo, tenemos en exclusiva para Express News Noticias al alcalde de Londres, Sadiq Khan. Bienvenido, señor alcalde, a Express News.
Hola, it's good to be here. Nice to see you.
The first question, I know we have a very short time. I'm going straight into the questions. Why do you think the Latin community, meaning Spanish and Portuguese speaking, should vote for you?
Well, firstly, I want to thank the Latin American community in London. They're Londoners, by the way, who speak Portuguese and Spanish as well, for the work they do to make London the greatest city in the world. I've seen for myself over the last 5 years, your contribution economically, socially, and culturally. The first thing I say is, don't necessarily vote for me. Make sure you vote. You're Londoners now, and you're entitled to vote, so make sure you vote. But over the last 5 years, you've seen the support I've given to your communities, from the support I've given in relation to awarding grants to the Indo-American Refugee and Migrant Organization, help I've given to the Latin American Women's Rights Service, the help I've given to small businesses who are struggling all across London, my support to FUSA London as well, but also the work we've done with Londoners from the Latin American community, making sure that they all can have their potential fulfilled, whether they're young, whether they're middle-aged like me, or whether they're older. It's really important every Londoner has the chance to have their potential fulfilled. And with me as mayor, I'll care on helping you do that.
You may know that the Latino community are looking for the recognition as an ethnia, as a minority ethnia. How can you help this community to fulfill this request?
I know there's big frustration that the government, when it came to the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, didn't have a special category to recognize Latin Americans. The government's got to realize this is one of the fastest growing communities in London, and they've got to recognize that sometimes their needs are different to other communities. I think diversity is not a weakness, but it's a strength. So I think working together, we can carry on putting pressure on the government to make sure they recognize you as a minority community, and that recognition will help in relation to the provision of services, but our ability to help you going forward.
In some communities, there are questions about the language, about the facilities to access to the service because of the limits of the language. How can, from the mayor, can help to resolve this situation?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, a number of our services, we get translated into Spanish and Portuguese to help those for whom English isn't a first language. Secondly, from City Hall, we now have a record amount of investment in classes to learn English for those people for whom English isn't a first language. It's really important we help people improve their English skills. At the same time, respecting the fact they, for good reasons, want to keep their heritage, their culture, their language. There's no reason why you can't be a proud Latin American and a proud Londoner. My job in City Hall is to be a helping hand. So for those that can't read English, we have translations, but we encourage everyone by the free courses to learn English, because that will help you fulfill your potential. That'll help you have more success when it comes to parents, even with your children. That'll help you in relation to getting to know your neighbors. That'll help you in relation to get promotion at work as well. So the key thing is me helping you fulfill your potential.
During the pandemic situation, a lot of Latinos have lost their job, especially in cleaning and in jobs like that. How can you help all these people that are having problems, and especially there, and sometimes they are complaining because they feel that they've been undermined and are the first ones to lose their jobs?
Well, firstly, it's important that I, as the mayor, thank members of the community who worked so hard during the pandemic. Many were key workers, working in shops, working in care homes, working in the NHS, working in transport. And so thank you very much for what you did during the pandemic. Some who worked in sectors like retail, hospitality, leisure, tourism, culture, have lost their jobs because some had casual jobs, and some of these jobs dried up because there was no customers. The good news is the lockdown will be eased very soon. The vaccine rollout is going very well. And as lockdown lifts, we'll have more and more people come into those jobs. But importantly, from City Hall, we're doing two very important things. One is we've got a costed plan to invest in Londoners being trained to have the skills for the jobs being created. So we've got a big skills agenda. But secondly, we've set up an employment rights hub in City Hall, and we're providing free advice to those who need advice in relation to both employment and skills, but also in relation to concerns they may have around their immigration status as well. It's really important that you have help at this difficult time. And I've shown in the last 5 years the help I've given. And if I'm re-elected, I'll carry on helping this really important community.
Thank you. And the last question, I know that your time is very valuable, and especially because you are in campaign. What do you think could be your biggest challenge to support the Latino community and the Spanish and Portuguese Spanish speakers?
I know, unfortunately, other politicians aren't engaging with the Latin American community. other politicians aren't engaging with those Londoners who speak Spanish and Portuguese. I've always said I'll be a mayor for all Londoners. And that means your community, and that means other communities as well. You know my story. I'm the son of immigrants. This is personal to me in relation to helping out people like me, people who are different, people who are different color, people whose country of origin is different, people who want to be integrated but not lose their identity. And you know, with me as your mayor, I'll continue to be by your side, championing these really important issues.
And any message you could leave to the community and especially the Express News community that are looking at your work at the moment?
Well, firstly, can I say again, thank you for all that you do for our city. Please make sure if you're registered to vote that you vote on May the 6th, use all your votes, and please lend me your vote so I can carry on serving you as your mayor.
Thank you very much for being in Express News, and good luck with the 6th of May.
Thank you very much.
Can someone take over the commentating now? Thank you.
So that is Sean Bailey, no?
Yes, indeed. Would you like to introduce it?
So now we are going to see Sean Bailey, the conservative candidate who claimed to be have Latin American roots because his parents are from Jamaica, his grandfather was from Cuba, and his grandfather had Spanish citizenship. Sean Bailey is a conservative candidate for being mayor of London. It's the first time that the Conservative is presenting a candidate which links with Latin America because Sean's parents were born in Jamaica, which is the largest English-speaking Latin American country. So what are your plans, Sean, for our community? We are more than 500,000 Spanish Portuguese-speaking people in London. What are your plans for our community?
Hello, Isaac. Before I start, actually, Isaac, my granddad was born in Cuba.
Okay.
He was born in Cuba and he came to Jamaica. So I claim Latin American roots, well, at least Spanish-speaking roots, because my granddad was born in Cuba. Look, my plans for the community are the same for all of London, to make London fairer and safer and greener to live in. When you talk about the Latin American community in general, the Spanish-speaking community, I have a strong link because, of course, I have a link to my political partners in Spain, Pepe. They are a big link for us. And I went to Madrid in the very beginning of the campaign. And the reason I did that is to hear from not only from Spain, but also from London, what are the challenges facing the community? And what I hear is they're mostly the same. So we have things like, how are we going to get employed? Where can we live? Are people going to support our businesses? And are our children safe? And I have plans for all of those things. So as we go through the conversation, I'll tell you what my plans are. I think the most specific thing, though, is to make sure that everybody feels welcome. I will be building City Hall as a crossroads for the world. And the way that the Latin American community, the Spanish-speaking community, have come to Britain, integrated, grown, become strong, raise their children, start businesses, very, very big part of our cultural scene is something that I will maximize and tell the whole world, because I think it's a good model for other communities to copy.
In London, we have a little bit more Portuguese speakers than Spanish speakers, and they are always complaining because Transport for London have not integrated Portuguese as one of the main languages. You can buy tickets in 17 languages, but not in Portuguese, which is the 5th most spoken language in London and in the world. Can you promise that you are going to integrate the Portuguese in the TfL machines and also to celebrate the Portuguese-speaking community? We have 350,000 Portuguese in Britain, 100,000 Brazilian, 50,000 Portuguese-speaking Africans. They also wanted to be integrated. They don't feel very happy because Portuguese is not in the transport for London. Portugal is the oldest ally of England. So what are your plans for the Portuguese-speaking community as well as the Spanish-speaking community?
So two things. Firstly, yes, I will put Portuguese on there. I was very surprised, Isaac, when you told me this. I went back to my team, they checked, and of course you're right. So we'll put it on there. It's just a question of maths. Such a big community, you know, very well-spoken language, 5th most spoken language in London. Let's do it. I think that's a done deal. We'll get that done. But the reason I talk about making City Hall a crossroads, because what I will do is invite the Brazilian community, the Portuguese-speaking community, into City Hall to put on a exhibition of their culture, their time in Brazil, in Portugal, and here in London as well. I'll allow them that space to make that exhibition, and I'll attend that exhibition. Because what I want is, when I talk about a crossroads, I mean having everybody to come in and show the quality of their culture and the history that they have in the world, and especially they have in London. I'll make that pledge to make that happen now. So that will be, I look forward to that happening.
When Boris was mayor, he used to meet the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking community, the Ibero-American community, once per year in his first term. Are you planning to have a meeting with our community once per year at least, or more? What is your plan regarding the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking community?
Yes, and on 3 levels. So firstly, on the festival level that I just spoke about. Secondly, because everybody knows I'm a Christian, and I'm going to be creating a multi-faith forum. And of course, your community will be very well represented in there, because you have some of the biggest, most vibrant churches in London. So you'll be there as part of that conversation as well. And just because I think the community is so big, so vibrant, and such an integral part of London, we have to meet. And I'm not just saying these sweet words that everybody likes me, but this is how I learn the challenges of each community, and therefore can deliver for each community. You have to meet with the communities and speak. Yes, we have universal challenges in London, but people have specific challenges, and the way to understand them is to come and meet those communities.
You know, every year we have the Black History Month, the LGTB History Month, and we have the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking History Month. At the same time, in Britain, United States and Canada, altogether we are 70 million people. And we started to have this History Month when Boris was a mayor. Are you planning to help us? It's called Amigo Months. Are you planning to help us to participate in the Amigo Months, that London should promote the Amigo Months? Are you going to be in the inauguration and the closing meeting of the Amigo Months?
Yes, and that's why I said I'll have you into City Hall, and you can have Amigo Month start in City Hall. You can have a ceremony in City Hall, one that I will be at. And I tell you why I will promote it as well. Look, Isaac, I'm very careful. I don't just want to sound like a politician and say sweet things. I want to demonstrate to people why I'm going to do this. London is a footfall city. It doesn't matter if you sell insurance or if you sell coffee. It only works when people come to London. Amigo Month is a great opportunity to invite people from around the world, Spanish and Portuguese-speaking people, but all people from around the world to come to London. So I will promote it, not just for the good of your community, but for the good of us all, to get visitors from outside of London and outside the country to come to what can be a great spectacle. Because that other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have a London festival where all the communities of London show their best wares, so people from around the world come to London. Because I want to drive up footfall. I want more and more people to come to London, enjoy London, and spend their money here.
Can we have like a festival at Trafalgar Square during the Amigo Months? Is it possible or not?
I can't promise that until I check the calendar, because of course, if you close Trafalgar Square, you have to close all the roads and all the rest of that. But what I will say, if it's practical, then I will do it. And if we can't do it in Trafalgar Square, we can do it somewhere else. We can do it somewhere else.
You know, when Boris was mayor 11 years ago, he did 2 things. One, he recognized the Ibero-American community in all ethnic monitoring forms. Can you help our community that Ibero-Americans should be integrated in every ethnic monitoring form, in the census, in every single aspect of British life? And can you help us to lobby Boris Johnson that he should do this on a national level?
Yes, of course I will. And here's the thing, because Boris said it when he was mayor, it'll make it that much easier for us to make our argument. And what's really good about a community like yours, it works for Britain. Your community who celebrates, your community who makes lots of business, your children are great in school, you build part of our cultural aspect, because what makes London great, you can come here and you can eat Chinese food, or you can eat Portuguese food, you can eat Nigerian food, or you can eat Lebanese food. We need communities like yours to be comfortable, and we need to support those communities to make London great. So yes, I will lobby Boris, and I will also create the space so that I can be lobbied as well by the community.
What about our main barrios, our main cultural, social, commercial hubs like Elephant and Castle, Seven Sisters, Little Portugal, Little Brazil in William Junction, Portobello for the Spanish community? What are your plans for these social, commercial, cultural hubs?
My plan for them is to promote them, is to make them as famous as Chinatown. I think Chinatown yesterday is great, but Little Brazil, all these places we can make bigger if people knew about them. So we need to promote them not only on the other side of London, but also on the other side of the world, so people come there. I want the businesses there, the employment there to grow. They have a lot to offer London, so I will support them to become bigger, to become more well known, to become more profitable, because that's a way of getting people back in London. And remember, under Sadiq Khan, footfall in London put us in the lowest 5% for high streets across the country. I want to boost that up because that protects jobs, it protects people's businesses.
When Boris was mayor, he celebrated 11 years ago the bicentenaries of Chile, Argentina, Mexico, Bolivia, and Colombia. But this year, we have the bicentenaries of Peru, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and next year in Brazil. And also we celebrate 500 years of the first circumnavigation of the world made by Spanish and Portuguese sailors. Are you planning to do this kind of celebration at City Hall or in a park if it is not possible to do in a closer environment? Can you support the celebration of these bicentenaries at this 500th anniversary?
Over to you. This is where I come to the community. This is where I come to the community to say, how, where, and when do I do these things? I have the space, I have the time, and we may even be able to find a little money. But this is what I mean about your cultural power and my ability to help that grow in London. This is something that your community owns. It's special to your community. As mayor, I want everybody to see this, so I'll just create the space so you can do it. So will I support it? Absolutely. But you'll have to tell me what it is you want to put on, where you want to put it on, and how I can help. But I look forward to it. Who doesn't love a big carnival? Come on, everybody loves that.
There's two last questions. One of the problems that have our community is that we have communicational problems in English. Many of us don't speak proper English, or if we speak very good English, we have problem of communications. And we need more, first of all, we need more services in Spanish and Portuguese, perhaps on a website at City Hall or in the City Hall website. And we would need desperately free courses, English courses, ESL courses. Can you help us to have free ESL courses at all levels and to have more translations into Spanish and Portuguese?
First off, translations to Spanish and Portuguese on the City Hall website, done. I will do that. That's simple. Let's get that done. Again, I'm not sure why it doesn't exist. City can't miss the trick there. With ESOL courses, I'd have to speak to local authorities to see what they can support and what we can from City Hall can do together. But it's always my desire to help people to have good English so they can operate at the highest level in the country. So yes, you will get support from me there. But I cannot promise how much until I understand where local authorities are, and then we can support local authorities in providing even more.
So the last question is this. We had COVID. We have a lot of members of our community died with COVID. We have very good nurses. One of the nurses that saved Boris Johnson's life was a Portuguese, Miss Pitarna. But we have some problem because during COVID now, for example, we have logistic difficulties to find food to distribute. Can you help us in the food distribution? Can you help us also? We have another problem that there is a lot of people in London that don't have papers. They are undocumented immigrants. And when Boris was mayor, I organized a meeting with Boris. He was in favor of regularizing and giving an amnesty to hundreds of thousands of irregular immigrants because it will help Britain against COVID. What are your plans regarding that?
What we'll do with your second thing, we will go to Boris again and have another meeting because of course now he's Prime Minister. So let's make a representation to London to the Prime Minister. So we will go as a delegation and see the Prime Minister about this question of regularising people's paperwork. When you talk about food distribution, I've been volunteering for the Felix charity, which is probably the biggest food collection charity in all of London at this point. I will put the relevant people from your community in touch with Felix because they may be able to help in a very practical way and also very quickly, so we can make that connection as well. But this is an illustration of what I want to do. I want to be a practical mayor who actually delivers on what he says, and I want to put people together so we can make change. So with the papers, we go to Boris, and with the food distribution, we go to Felix, an individual and an organization that should be able to help.
For ending this conversation, there are more than 1 million people in this country which were born in a Spanish or Portuguese-speaking nation. Half of them live in London. What are your proposals for our community and why our community should vote for you?
If you come from the Spanish or Portuguese-speaking community, the reason you should vote for me is because I'm going to put 8,000 extra police officers on the streets of London and make it safe for everyone. Remember, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said the streets are no longer safe for women and girls. That's unacceptable. I will make it safe. I'll also build 100,000 homes for £100,000 for each so that people can buy. Because like all immigrant communities, your parents and grandparents came here for you to succeed and for you to do better in every generation. Home ownership is a big part of that, and I will make that happen. And thirdly, I'll make sure I produce the jobs that every community needs. So I have a plan to generate 924,000 jobs. And of course, many, many, many people from the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking communities will claim those jobs. It means that we have money for our families here, and you have money to send home to your family as well if they're still in somewhere else in the world. That's my pledge to your community. I will make sure London is fair. I will make sure London is welcoming. I will make sure London feels like you have a stake. It's time to give London a fresh start, and boy, I have a fresh start for London.
Thank you, Sean. I hope we are going to see you in our forum, okay? Are we going to see there, no?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sean. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigado.
Muchas gracias. Ciao.
Now, we are going to have a second part of this interview because we received many questions from the community. So we are going to ask Sean Bailey while he is in his campaign bus. Well, thank you very much, Sean, for allowing us to have the second part of our interview while you are in your campaign bus. Thank you very much, Sean. We fully appreciate it. How can City Hall, if you are a mayor, is going to support the creation of a massive Ibero-American house for all Spanish and Portuguese speakers, like, for example, the Polish Center that have theater, museum, and a special place for artists? What are you going to do in London to build monuments or name streets after some important members of our community? Thank you, Sean.
I think firstly, the Ibero-American community needs to be spoken with all the time. You don't want a politician who just turns up when they want some votes. So the first thing I'll be doing is make sure we have a regular dialogue. You can regularly come into me and speak to me. And how I'm going to facilitate this, I'm going to have a People's Plimps Commission. And what that is a commission that speaks to communities like yours, like mine, gathers up the history and then goes around putting in the statues, the road names, and the plaques across London from permanent people from the Ibero-American community who've added to the history of Britain and the history of London. I think that's the first thing. I want to do it substantively, so you're not just relying on me. City Hall will have a mechanism to make this happen. The other thing I'll be doing as well is having a festival of London. And the whole point of a festival of London is so that our big communities, such as the Ibero-American community, can represent itself properly. So I'll be coming to you and asking you to put on a party, asking you to keep your market open, asking you what you would like to do to talk to the rest of the world about your footprint here in London. It's very important to me that I break the tradition of City Hall only turning up when they want something, which has been the tradition of Sadiq Khan. I will be there all day, every day, so you can have these conversations. And the last piece, of course, is to help you find a home, help you find that venue to host your community permanently. And I'll look into the City Hall into the City Hall books and just see where the buildings are across London. We'll put the message out. You're looking for a home, and we'll try to help you find one.
Thank you very much. Our community has suffered a lot with violence. In every terrorist incident, we got at least one Ibero-American killed. We have more than 10 kids murdered in knife attacks only in 1 year. How are you going to tackle crime and to support the work of the Metropolitan Police Ibero-American Association and Forum? There are a lot of cases in which Spaniards, Portuguese, Latin Americans, Brazilians, and North Africa have been verbally or physically attacked in the streets or speaking their own tongues. How can we stop this form of racism? What are your plans to scale small charities to have a specific project such as youth clubs and Saturday clubs to reduce knife crime?
So look, if there's one thing that Sadiq Khan really has failed on, is to keep Londoners safe, all communities in London. I mean, the mayor said that women and girls are not safe on the streets of London. All of these things I will get on top of. So let me give you the list. Firstly, I'm going to make sure I put 1,000 extra officers into the safeguarding units. That looks after the safety of women and girls. It also looks after the safety of hate crime as well. We'll have more dedicated detectives to follow crimes up. What happens is, if criminals are not caught, they become worse and worse. We need to stop them and get them in court and get them prosecuted. The other piece, of course, as well, I'll put 8,000 extra police officers on the streets of London to keep London safe. And I'll reopen the 38 police stations that were closed by Sadiq Khan. That's very important so the Ibero-American community can have a direct relationship with their local police service to crack down on hate crime, to keep our young people safe. But on the positive end, I'm going to spend £450 million on youth work across London in a 3-year period. So you talked about how would I support organisations in your community that do youth work, that do community work. I will fund a worker in there. I'm going to have 4,000 youth workers across London. And what I want to do is take away some of the financial burden of running your organisations. I used to run a charity myself. I know how important it is to get long-term funding. So I'll be giving grants of at least 3 years, not 1 year, at least 3 years, and maybe in some cases 5 years, to make sure these organisations can grow and prosper and keep our young people safe. The other thing, I'll be bringing stop and search as well as scan and search to get these dangerous weapons off our roads. I don't think Sadiq Khan is focused enough on making the streets of London safe. I will, in my first 100 days, introduce a new program to keep London safe. It's called Operation Blunt 3, using tactics that we know already work.
Can you apply exemption for the congestion charge for cleaners or people that are transporting goods for helping bank foods against the pandemic?
The congestion charge is another one of Sadiq Khan's big failures. He failed to run our finances properly in London, and then he tried to charge us. So he hiked the congestion charge, he hiked council tax, he's going to expand the ultra-low emission zone, which doesn't have exemption for blue badge holders, and he's about to bring in an outer London border tax. What I will do is important. I can't give an exemption for individual people, so I'm going to cut it for everyone. What I'm going to do, I'm going to reduce the cost of the congestion charge back to £11. I'm going to take it away from being 7 days a week to only being 5 days a week, and it will only be until 6 o'clock, not 10 o'clock. Because it is acted as a worship tax, so certain people can't go to church anymore, and we don't want that. I like to go to church. I'm sure many people listening to this do as well. So what we'll do, we'll make sure that people can move around, they can do their work, cleaner, carer, security guard, police officer, NHS worker, whatever it is, they can go to church, mosque, gurdwara, because I will reduce the cost and the running time of the congestion charge.
The rents in London are quite high. Many Ibero-Americans live in very poor conditions and sharing small flats with many people. Most wages are just to pay rent and food. What can you do to overcome this devastating quality of life?
The biggest failing that Sadiq Khan made, he promised us 80,000 homes a year, and then he only built 40,000 in 5 years. What I'm going to do is finance the building of 100,000 homes for £100,000. Why that's important, even if you don't want to buy, and 87% of Londoners do, it will reduce the pressure in the rental market, because lots of people who rent will now be able to move on to buying their property. And under my scheme, buying a property in my shared ownership scheme will be cheaper than renting the equivalent scheme. That's the first thing. The second thing is I will spend £1.3 billion making sure I build homes for social rent, because there's not enough of them as well. I grew up in council housing. I understand how important it is. I was homeless for a long time in London as well. So I want to ease that pressure for people by building both types of housing. It's really important. And I'll also be running a special project around temporary accommodation to make it higher quality and produce more of it. unless we get on top of City Khan's failure to build in London, rents will keep climbing. I'm going to reduce rents by providing many, many more homes to live in London.
Thank you. What are your plans regarding our main social, cultural, and commercial hubs like Little Portugal, Elephant and Castle, Latin Village in Seven Sisters, Little Brazil in Wilton Junction, and Portobello? The Elephant and Castle shopping center has been demolished, and hundreds of small businesses don't have a place to stay. They were pushed away. How can you help them? What are your plans for the Latins in Elephant and Castle?
So let me say this. I come from Portobello. I know how important these organizations, these areas are, not just for your community, not for the Ibero-American community, but for everybody. And I want to make this point. The Ibero-American community is important to all of London. Your business activity provides employment for everybody. So what I will be doing is be starting a high street fund to make sure that we redevelop these areas, we tidy them up, we clean them up, we make them more attractive, we attract more customers. That's exactly what London needs. I have a fund focused directly on markets to make sure markets can exist, because every £1 spent in a market, £1.75 is spent in the surrounding shops. It's a real way of building communities back up after COVID, so I'll be doing that. The second piece is I have a plan to launch 924,000 jobs in a 5-year period. And that's using money from my house building, that's using money from my London Infrastructure Bank, and also money that I'll be using to help markets and high streets go. In Outer London, I'll be providing 30 minutes free parking so that people can get customers to those shops. These are the things that will keep it going. But what I will not do, Sadiq Khan is about to expand the ultra-low emission zone. His own figures say that it will wipe out 20,000 small businesses. It will cost us 20,000 jobs, but yet he's still going ahead of it. I will stop that before it affects people's business.
The last question is, what is your message to our community? We're a 1 million strong community in all Britain, 500,000 in London. What's your message? Why we have to vote for you and not for the other candidates?
I would say this isn't about Labour or Conservative. This is about failure or progress. We've seen what 5 years under Sadiq Khan has given us. Hiking tax, rising crime, lower house numbers. If we want our communities to thrive, we have to take a fresh start with me. So no matter how you voted in the past, this is about what you want to happen in the future. I will be bringing 8,000 officers to the streets of London to keep it safe. I'll be putting £450 million into our communities to keep our young people safe. I'll be building a job platform for 924,000 people to make sure adults from our communities have an income. And of course, £100,000. I'll be building 100,000 homes for £100,000 to make sure we have a place to live. This is about the future of London. This is about representation in London. This is about changing it around. We've had a mayor, Sadiq Khan, who said many, many sweet words and has delivered nothing. He delivered less than half of his manifesto. It's time for change. It's time to give me the opportunity to give London a fresh start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado. Muchas gracias.
And thank you for joining me on the campaign bus. I know it looks a bit strange, but I'm out in London campaigning, so I'm on my bus. But thank you for having me.
Fully appreciate your commitment. Thank you very much, sir.
As long as they didn't, you're not going to charge us a ticket for being on the bus.
No. A free bus.
There we go. Someone had their sound on just now. Of course, this is Bar Latina Radio, and of course, we are working closely with the Amigo Month and all the other businesses to give you the political debate. And now over to our two presenters.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Hemos tenido la oportunidad. Voy a hablar en español un poquito y luego en inglés, porque obviamente nuestra audiencia también es de habla hispana y portuguesa. Y bueno, las personas que estuvieron acompañándonos, vimos que contamos con la participación de los 4 candidatos principales a la alcaldía de Londres. Algunos, como vimos, enviaron sus grabaciones, como todos los candidatos de alguna manera, de todas formas, presentaron sus posiciones, y creo que vamos a comenzar con una parte muy interesante, y es que discutamos un poco cuáles son las propuestas y cómo las ven. Bueno, now in English, thank you very much.
as you saw, we had the opportunity to hear all the positions, the 4 candidates that they were participating in this forum. We heard first Sean Berry, then we heard Luisa Porrit, then Sadiq Khan, and last Sean Bailey. Now we're going to have the opportunity to discuss a bit. I would like to invite the community and invite our panelists to discuss this. What do you think about each position? The first thing I will ask you to be very brave, do not take too long, more than 1 minute, and then we can discuss a bit more. If you want to talk, please just raise your hand and we will give you the opportunity. Let's see who wants to. Rosa Gomez, maybe. She's a local council. She is the council from Red Bridge Council, and she's from the Labour Party. I would like to hear what do you think about all the 4 positions the candidates have presented today. Rosa Gomez? Is Rosa Gomez? No, I don't think so. She is there. Otherwise, anybody else, please raise your hand and let's have a discussion.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Rosa. Rosa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria Victoria. That was a very interesting interview by all the candidates. What can I say? Well, obviously I'm a Labour councillor, so I am campaigning on behalf of Sadiq Khan because I believe that Sadiq has been a very good mayor for London for all these years. I think most people tend to misunderstand what the responsibility for the London mayor is and responsibilities for the central government. You know, we got to understand that he's got a budget, that the COVID has been very difficult. And in fact, it was the central government who took away all the police officers, closing police stations, which has given rise to crime and knife crime. Do you want me to continue in English or shall I go into Spanish?
Continue in English is fine.
Okay. And I think, you know, that when I hear Sean Bailey, for instance, he sounds pretty desperate. He is promising the world, he's promising the earth. And, you know, we can't trust Tories because, as we've seen from Boris Johnson, there's just lies and lies and lies and little you know, you can't really see any of the promises materializing. It all comes from a budget. Now, you know, as a Latin American and as an American councillor, I really want to thrive with my community. I want my community to do well. And we can only do that with the Labour Party. Why the Labour Party? The Labour Party is there for the working class, for the migrants, for people who are in low-paid jobs. And this is, I know you said 1 minute, but I think it's very important that we vote Sadiq Khan and we vote Labour on Thursday, the 6th of May. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. And now I would like to invite Maria Linford, if it's possible to have her opinion about the different candidates. Maria Linford is as well a local council and will be very interesting to hear from you. Welcome to this forum. Maria?
Sorry, I was just trying to connect.
Yes, thank you very much for being here with us.
Good evening, thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation from videos and from and personal. I think that Sean Berry answered the questions extremely well. And yes, it was an impressive thing. It was a pity that at the beginning, it was no translation whatsoever. So that was, you know, a lot of people were listening and I could see a lot of people that I managed to join in, they were leaving us because they couldn't understand what was said. So that was a pity. But yes, it was an interesting presentation. And I thought that some of the questions, although they didn't answer an awful lot of the questions, for example, about housing, what is going to happen really with housing, that was left a little bit in the limbo. But and that is one of the most important things at the moment.
Thank you very much, Maria. I don't know if it's connected, Gloria Gomez. Sorry, the person, I don't have your name, Galaxy A11, you are very welcome. Can you, yeah.
Hello, hi, good evening. My name is Marco Lopez. They know me. I'm the president of the Pull-Up United and a member of a political party in Cape Verde here, MPD, just won the elections. And on the 18th of April, I represent the party as well. I'm an active collaborator for the Portuguese Community Center as well, where we've got the project COVID-19 Food Aid for the Spanish and Portuguese residents, speakers in Lambeth. And I am a bit disappointed because I was hoping that I had my questions ready, and I had questions especially for Mozambique, as they're going on a very difficult
working class, for the migrants, for people who are in low-paid jobs. And this is, I know you said 1 minute, but I think it's very important that we vote.
You turn your microphone off, please. Senor, turn your microphone off.
Rosa. Thank you, Rosa. And now, Aburi. Yeah, sorry. Can you continue? Somebody.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So basically, I had a message from the Mozambique leader in the whole of UK, and a question for them, but unfortunately I didn't have it. I was, well, it is what it is. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, and that I don't think it was fair on me, but it's fine. It's fine. It is what it is. So I wish you guys all the best, but I'm not happy with that, because I had message for 5 countries: Cape Verde, Angola, Mozambique, São Tomé, and Guinea-Bissau. I had the 5 message and 5 questions. I didn't have the chance for it. That's fine.
Why can't you ask the question? Why can't you ask the question?
Thank you very much. Yeah, and have a nice day. I'm an evening. Sorry.
Yeah. Any other person? I'm afraid, as you heard from the starting point, the candidates, some of them prefer not to accept questions, but send messages. So we have to accept the condition of the candidates anyway. We sent questions and they replied in the way they wanted. Maria, sorry, I don't know, Gloria Gomez is available?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. The microphone is for you.
Well, yes, I'm very disappointed because Isa promised something to all of us, that all the people were supposed to be here tonight. We're going to have a big meeting, a big questions, answers, like a debate, and nothing happens. But the last minute is this. I mean, it's nice to see everybody, but we've been doing this for many weeks, 2 weeks, and almost every day. And I think I'm very disappointed, because if the candidates, they think we are not very important, I think why we're here, why we should think about voting for them. So it's going to be now personal, who wants to vote for who. And this meeting that has nothing to do with them because they're not here. Whatever we say tonight is not going to go anywhere.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and a good evening.
Thank you very much, Gloria Gomez.
Thank you very much.
Isaac, it's up to you now. You want to make any comment?
A comment. We invited all the 4 candidates. 3 of them said that they were going to be here. Luisa Porritt from the Liberal Democrats, Sean Bailey from the Conservative, and Sean Berry. But because Sadiq didn't want to come, Sean Bailey said, I'm only going to send a video. And Luisa Porritt only sent a video of 3 minutes. But that is not our problem. If they don't want to come, it's because they don't see our community is important, or I don't know why. But what we wanted to show to them is that we are a very big community. The Spanish and Portuguese community is a very big community, 500 million votes in London alone. So this is the first time that we have all the 4 candidates together. Maria Crisancho made an interview to Sadiq Khan. I think that Sadiq Khan only talk about Latin Americans. he doesn't understand that we are more than Latin America, because it's 90% of our community have Spanish or Portuguese passports. And regarding what Marco said, it's a pity that he couldn't make the question, but many people couldn't raise the question because there were not enough time. And as you can see, the only person that arrived in the studio was Jean-Berry, and we raised all the questions that people proposed before in the forums. So we sent all the questions that were in the agenda. We couldn't send that now because they didn't attend.
Yes, sorry to interrupt, Isaac, but you promised that they will be here, and you were too late to tell us they were not coming to see us, to talk to us by Zoom. I had my question, and my question was out because I was supposed to do it on Zoom tonight. But it was too late, and you disappointed not so many as the candidates, but you disappointed the whole community the way you deal with this. I don't want to be rude, Isaac, but next time, we're all very busy as well, and you had to do meetings, and you had to be honest with us, and you were not honest at all. And that is what makes us really angry and really upset. I know who I'm going to vote for. I know for sure, so I don't need to, but I wanted to hear everybody else, and that you should know that a long time ago, and not one day before, do this kind of meeting. And I think it's you, the way you made this meeting, not them. I'm sure they told you a long time ago they will not be able to come. I'm quite sure about that.
Thank you, Gloria. Now the person, Leah, wants to talk. Welcome. No, you have it silent. Yep.
While we're waiting for Leah, just a small note. I'm disappointed at the reaction of some. Isaac did try his best to get those people on, and so you can't blame him because other people decided to change their minds. It wasn't his fault, and we were battling up to the last minute to get those people on. So my apologies also, Isaac, apologies also, but we did the best we could.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Leah, now you have the word.
Hi, hello to you all again. It was very interesting, and I can only congratulate Isaac for your efforts, for persevering, and for having this fight that only brings good to yours and my community and all communities together. Of course, not everything goes accordingly, not everything it should be, but this is politics. What did I take from this? Well, when you know British politics, you do understand that a leader or a candidate needs to follow this party. And his party has got their own policies. They can only promise, but the results in the end are dictated for the policies, by the policies from their party. So we can take, I would say, a summary of everything that they said and take them with a pinch of salt, and can only count on us to keep on pressurizing, to keep on requesting, to keep on demanding what we think that we have right to, and to make them understand that we are part of London. London is composed of 75% of small business, and we as a Spanish and Portuguese community are a big chunk of those small business. On another note, I would like to make a point. Do all of these candidates understand what Amigo Month stands for? Because it's all very nice to come here and say, you know, I approve of Amigo Month. Do they know what it stands for? Do they know what the Lusophone community stands for? Do they know that the Lusophone community represents, in fact, 8 countries? So it is very important that from now on and going forward, we make sure that we make them understand that we don't speak about one country, but about a big chunk, a big group of countries that share the same thing, communication and understanding and the love of the city where they live and work and where they pay taxes. And, you know, I just say goodbye and thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to take part.
Thank you very much, Leah. Maria Linfo wants to talk. Welcome. Again.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I have to say something. I'm very disappointed that Gloria said what she said, because Isaac Billo has been working his guts to try to do something for tonight's meeting. He's been calling everybody. I have phone calls from him for 3 days trying to get this thing together. So congratulations, Isaac. You did a very good job. Yes. And I also have to say something else. The people who did not come was not because they don't care about the community. It's because they had something else and it was too late when they were notified. So that was the only mistake that was made. Too late to be notified. I know that there are elections and there's a period of preparation of the elections and campaigning, but nevertheless, you know, it was too late by the time the Amigo Mans decided to do this meeting on that particular date. You will know that Amigo Mans was going to do something, but when, you know, these people had other commitments, so they couldn't do it, and they did the video, so they did a test. The thing that you have to watch very carefully, Ila, is that the people that had already for that particular party work on the assembly, Caroline Pichon, who has been working in the assembly and has been working extremely hard for the Latin American community and for the Spanish community and for the Portuguese community. She understands very well what we mean 8 countries, that is not just one country, it's several countries. She is a person that works day and night for the rights of all of us. She's a person that defends us. She's a person that sends letters to Sadiq Khan trying to listen, saying, Sadiq, you need to listen. The person who doesn't listen is the person who also didn't come, but that was Sadiq Khan. He is the one who hasn't listened for a whole year. Is the person who the crime rate is the highest ever under his control. Transport, a lot of things, a lot of problems with transport because he commands TFL, he controls TFL, and TFL is a disaster. At the moment, they are broken. And so the congestion charge and the problems that we are suffering, the people living near the Elephant and Castle, are enormous because they are broke and they are now charging as much as they can and they're trying to get money from wherever and they don't care a damn about the people who live in this country. So what you have to watch very carefully is which party and which person has actually demonstrated for a very long time that they care about the community. I'm a councillor, I'm a Latin American, I am a SADC councillor, a councillor for SADC, and I care about my community, and I had worked very hard for my community, and so has my party. So that is all I have to say. And thank you very much, Video, for what you have done. Thank you to Express News, because as always, you are absolutely fantastic with the community. You're always great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if it's anybody else to talk. I think it's getting the end of this fantastic event. Not exactly what everybody's happy about, but I don't know if Abby here wants to have a last word. Before that, Antonio Cunha wants to have his last word before we finish.
Well, yes, I want to say you something.
I just want to mention really is, I know Isaac for so many years, and you working very hard. You're working very hard, and I admire him in every single point. He ring at midnight. Last night he ring me, it's nearly midnight. He ring me at 7 o'clock in the morning. What do you expect from a gentleman like that? Working with 1 million people, Portuguese people, Spanish people, everywhere. I admire him, and I want to make sure I leave this message. Mr. Isaac, I'm with you all the time. Thank you so much for you being done all this working for free. Mention this is not easy for anyone. Like Maria mentioned, you are a gentleman. Thank you for everybody. and have a very nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Okay, before we finish, just to say thank you from Express News. We try to put the community together, and please remember, Express News is a daily news program from 1 o'clock every day from Monday to Friday, and you are very welcome to come and speak as well. We're going to follow this week with the preparation of the election, 6th of May. Thank you again for being with us for these 2 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to talk.
Yes, you're allowed to talk. I'm just saying thank you.
Alda is raising her hand also.
You have the last word, Isaac.
Not Alda. Alda is also raising her hand. Can you? Okay. Well, I wanted to say something. Congratulations to Express News, to Noticias en Portugués, to Nikki Price from Latina, to Radio, who helped us a lot, to all the media, social media that are supporting us. We try our best. We had for the first time the 4 mayoral candidates. Never happened with us before. We sent letters on time. Luisa Pori said that she was going to be here, and the only reason she declined was because Sadiq decided to don't come. And I think that Sadiq is not trying to come to many hustings because he doesn't want to discuss with other people. That's his policy. And also, I think that there is a misconception about our community. Because if we are together, Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilians, South Africans, and Latin Americans, well, we are 1 million. But if we are divided, Latin America on one side, Brazil on another side, Spanish on another side, Portuguese on another side, they will never take us into account. If we are all together, we are 1 million. And that is the idea, to be 1 million. And what about Leah said about the Amigo Mons, yes, we need to go step by step until that Amigo Mons, the Spanish and Portuguese speaking history Mons, should be a quite important issue in the future. And thank you for all your efforts. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Maria Crisancho, for the
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. From Express News and Noticias en Portugués, these 2 medias that are working together to support our community, Latino, Spanish, and Portuguese speaker. Thank you again, and from now we say we end this lovely evening where we have the opportunity to hear the voices of the politics that matter to us. I hope we can meet again in another event like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I also say thank you very much to everyone who put this together. It was the first time that Latina Radio has moved off its normal format. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for including us. And we're going to play some music now for everyone. So I hope you'll enjoy a little bit of salsa. And it goes a little bit like this. You can find Latina Radio 24/7. Just go to Latina Nights on Facebook and you'll find all our links to all the radio stations that we're on, all the radio platforms we're on. A big shout out to everyone on the Latin community and of course all the salsa people. I hope you enjoyed the last 2 hours.
No queda nada de este amor, ya todo terminó. Ahora recuerdo y no se me olvida que me abandonaste por otro querer. Ya no te arrepientas, tú nunca me amaste y ahora ven, lamentate bien lejos de mí.